To the Wednesday meeting, February 9th at 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Today's meeting is being held as a virtual meeting due to the declared emergency. The meeting may be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel and website. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the lands upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people. We convey our respect and we thank them for their contribution to our culture, our community, and our past and present partnerships. Council, is there any member of council declaring a pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Yes, Amy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have an indirect pecuniary interest for item number 8E1 due to a business relationship with a person who has a pecuniary interest in the matter.
Okay, thank you very much for bringing that to council's attention. Any other member? That was 8E1. Just make a note of that in my record here. And we will get to the agenda of the meeting. The regular agenda of council dated February 9th has been circulated as presented. I would ask council to consider that we change the bylaw positioning to bring it preceding the closed session of the meeting to convenience the public and staff. If there's no objections to that, could we have the adoption of the agenda with that modest change in there? If someone would like to move that. Thank you very much, Councillor Scholdice, and seconded by Councillor Bartlett. In discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We're on number 4 of the agenda. And 4A, it's a pleasure to mention the name of 3 of our public works staff, Greg Lambert, Burton Powers, and Jim McEachran. These gentlemen are having long service awards being recognized tonight. Jill, are they in our attendance? I don't believe they are they?
They are not.
Okay, that's fine. But I think it should be mentioned that both council and staff congratulate each one of these individuals for achieving this milestone. Greg Lambert has put in 15 years, Burton Powers has put in 15 years, and Jim McEachran has put in 30 years. We thank them for both their service and their commitment. We know that when many of us are enjoying the comfort of our homes, these individuals are out on the roads making our municipality safer. And Greg, if you would convey our thanks to them for that, and perhaps if the record could include that the chair and council congratulate them and recognize them for their milestone. If Barbara could have that just noted, it would be appreciated. Jill, 4B is the South Central Ontario Regional Economic Development Corporation, better known as SCORE. They have a presentation before us. Is the presenter with us at the moment?
She is.
Okay, if you could, I will ask you to introduce her, and she may begin her presentation.
Yeah, sure. We have Kim here this evening from SCORE. She maybe is a familiar face to some of you. You've likely seen her at conferences, but certainly I expect you've also seen her at the County of Middlesex for those of you who've participated in that. South Central Ontario region, I got that right. Economic development is the focus, and she's asked to be able to make a presentation here tonight. We had to switch that a little bit, but we're good this evening. So Kim, I did allow you to present your screen if you would like to, but in your presentation was part of the agenda package as well.
Okay. My broadband is a little iffy where I am from home, but I will do my best to share that.
Thank you and welcome, Kim. You make yourself at home, and we're very familiar with problems with broadband and internet connection. So It happens, and we certainly understand. But thank you for coming, and you go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, can you guys see that okay?
You can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I see I'm starting at the end. There we go. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. And I'm sorry I didn't make it here before Christmas. The timing and the scheduling just didn't work out. But I'm here just to give you an annual partner update and just to let you know a little bit of what we've been doing at SCORE and how that might pertain to you here in Southwest Middlesex. So first of all, over the last year and a half, we have focused a lot on our 3 priorities and within those 3 priorities, the infrastructure. So maybe to back up a little, our 3 priorities for SCORE are infrastructure supporting economic development, human capital supporting economic development, and sector development that is focused on agriculture and food. And so for our infrastructure piece over the last year or so, we've been focusing a lot on transportation, community transportation and rail specifically, taking a supporting role in broadband, funnily enough, and also in energy. And so within that transportation piece, there is the community transit component, and we've coordinated a network of community transportation systems. And I know you have here in Southwest Middlesex the 4 counties that serves your area, but this system is also inclusive of other communities. And what we're trying to achieve is, where possible, to connect routing, and even more importantly than that, to learn from each other. So to be able to share experiences and coordinate information and education, and where possible, invest in similar same technologies. And over the past year, we undertook a project to upload all of our mapping for the transit, the individual community transit routes to the workforce planning board in that serve both ends of our region, but for you guys here, it'll be Elgin, Middlesex, Oxford, so that if someone is looking for employment or education, that they could go on that job seeker website and see where there might be some potential public transit across that area as well. And I don't have an item or a slide specific to this, but we recently attended the Roma conference, and I think you should have all received our packages. And one of the things that I believe is maybe of particular interest to you here as well is short line rail. So we've been working with the short line rail folks in terms of serving the manufacturing and agricultural sectors. And then our advocacy package, we did bring forward a specific issue related to contributions for drainage upgrades for rails that I believe is particular interest here at Southwest Middlesex too. So I want to make sure that I mentioned that we were aware of that, and we're definitely doing our best to bring that forward at every possible chance. And then human capital. So over the last year, we've year and a half, we've done a lot of focus on agricultural human capital with issues related to COVID-19 and the temporary foreign workforce. We recognize that there was some opportunity for us to invest in and focus on some of our workforce training for the agricultural sector here at home domestically. So with that in mind, we continue to work with Fanshawe College on the agribusiness management program that they offered, and that's more of a business administration program specific to agriculture. And then we had the opportunity to work with Conestoga College to develop the agricultural equipment operator program. And that program was funded in part by the federal and provincial government through the Canadian Agricultural Partnership. It's a 16-week course, and they're actually just started their second intake now. And it really gives students an opportunity to learn firsthand about farming operations and specifically to focus on operations of the large equipment that's involved in agriculture today. So we were really pleased to be able to do that as part of our domestic workforce development. And then some other sector development that we focused on this over this past year was more promotional. We partnered with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture on 6x16 and created a few or contributed to a few key campaigns. One is Feeding Your Future, and with that we focused on training within certain commodity sectors. And so we created a series of videos with the beef farmers of Ontario, Ontario pork, Ontario berries, grain farmers of Ontario. Who am I missing? I'm missing someone. They're all on both our website and the OFA website. Again, just to provide that internal training and promotion that agriculture is, a wonderful sector to get into, and there are many opportunities and many points that you can enter that field if that's something that you're interested in. And the other piece that we partnered with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture on as well is Always in Season. And again, that was more of a feature and a celebration of local food and farming across the region, and that can be found also on our website and the Ontario Federation of Agriculture website, and I think each of the municipal websites. So you also should be able to find that on Middlesex County, and there is a full spread for Middlesex County on there. And as a bit of a funner project, we had the opportunity to request for some artists across the region to contribute some drawings, and we created a downloadable coloring book to engage younger folks to consider what agriculture does across their communities too. So that was super fun, and we're really pleased about those efforts. And then advocacy and connecting. So before, and I apologize, this slide was actually made before our Roma conference, but before that we had 25 delegations. With the Roma conference, we had another 11, so I guess that puts us at 36 with various ministers and bringing forward issues and opportunities that are relevant here within our region, such as the issue related to drainage and rail, just as an example. We continue to collaborate with other organizations such as the Elgin Middlesex Oxford Workforce Planning Board in things like the transit project. And this last year, we collaborated with Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. They were able to obtain some rural economic development funding to get some data about farm operations. And we provided some assistance with that project in the analysis and providing reports to the various communities that wish that for support for their own projects or information for their community profiles or whatever they might use that for. In addition to that, we provided 12 letters of support for other organizations, resulting in successful funding for them. And I did a quick tally. I think the other organizations were able to obtain funding collectively for around 3.2 million. And we had some funding of our own that was just shy of the 1 million mark. So again, definitely your partnership dollars go to contribute to projects that are worthwhile, and we leverage those fundings across the entire region. And then just a little bit about partnerships. So our partnership, we believe, creates immediate value year over year. But more than that, it provides, because we're working on projects that are long-term in nature and that they often require a lot of moving parts and a lot of planning and organization, we do find the value to be cumulative over time, so that year over year, when you look back even 2, 3, 4, and 5 years since we've had this partnership, you can really see the value that we've created together over the last decade now, I guess it's been. And we work together in a fair partnership where there's 1 in 5 vote at each of the table or at the table. We have the ability to tackle those projects that are maybe larger in scope that individual communities might not be able to take on. And again, that funding piece to be able to leverage funding. And finally, just a parting sort of nice thought about our continued partnership is we really have accomplished a lot over the past decade as a 5-county partnership and 28 municipalities when you think of all the support and the opportunities that we've had. And we really do, I know the scoreboard especially really views this as a partnership that is good neighbors working together for the good of all. So I want to thank you so much for your time this evening. And if you have any questions at all, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Good. Thank you very much. We're back to our screen. Council, if there's any questions you'd like to ask him through the chair, certainly go ahead. I'll watch for hands. Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I appreciate that. Kim, thank you very much for coming tonight and giving your presentation. I think SCORE started about 2010 in response to the changes in the tobacco industry. Did they not? Yes. Well, I am glad to see that you're still going strong. So Kim, you're part of or have a connection to the Southwest Community Transit.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any idea what the numbers are, how successful that has been since it's been launched?
Through the chair, if I may, yes. So we are the coordinating body for the Southwest Community Transit, and you know, it's not been ideal launching community transit in the midst of a pandemic. So let me just start by saying that there are routes that are performing fairly well. And by that, I mean, there are consistent number of riders day over day, year over year. And there are routes that are maybe underperforming what we thought they were. And so to that end, and I don't know the exact numbers, I'm so sorry, but I can certainly get that to you. But I think to that end, we've now been a network for a couple years, and we actually have made application to the Rural Transit Solutions Fund to do a inventory and a bit of a regional wide review to see, you know, what do we have in terms of capital assets and to really review those numbers, because I think that that is important to see not only where we're succeeding, but where, you know, we maybe have services that are not being utilized, and further to fill in and maybe take those resources and fill in where there are no services currently and maybe they're much needed. So I know that wasn't a hard numbers answer, but I certainly can try and aggregate those numbers and get that to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd really like to see them. It would be nice to see it expanded, maybe out to this area a little bit, but I realize that will all take time, and certainly it has been, I'm sure, a difficult time to start something like that in the midst of a pandemic. So all the best to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Kim, thank you. Council, last call for questions to Kim. Seeing none, Kim, I want to thank you on behalf of Southwest Middlesex for your presentation. I don't have to wish you a safe trip home. You're no doubt there already. And thank you again. Council, can I have a motion that we receive the report from SCORE for information? Thank you very much, Councillor Cowell. A seconder for that. Councillor Choi. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Council, we're on number 5 of the agenda. There's items 5A to 5F, compromising the consent agenda. If there's any of these items you wish pulled, please bring them to the chair's attention and we'll discuss them under number 12 on the agenda, new business. January 26th, draft council meeting minutes. 5B, Middlesex London Board of Health meeting update, January 20th. 5C, Middlesex London Health Unit monthly Board of Health update. Resolution from the city of Brantford, closing the revolving door of justice in reference to pretrial custody of those likely to offend. Friends of Campbell Park, missions and visions, indicating their goals, their 5 and 10-year plans, and their mission statements. And the last 5F, Southwest Middlesex vouchers, $68,223.12. Yes, Jill?
Sorry, there is one more after vouchers. I don't know if you've got that on your list.
I do not. What is the title of that, Jill?
So that just got added recently through
Oh.
conversation with Councillor Vink related to his Brook Galveston Fire Committee meeting.
Yes, that is correct regarding the dispersion of certain grants that were received, I believe. Councillor Vink, can you enlighten council on that and the chair as well?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Allen, and thank you, Jill. Yeah, we had a budget meeting on February the 1st, I believe it was. And so the operating expenditures are roughly the same as last year's budget. The capital budget, I do want to mention while I'm talking here that we are going to be assessed for part of the $300,000 for a new chassis for a new pumper. And last year's budget, it was mentioned that they're going to undergo some renovations to their main fire hall plus the building in the back. And I believe that they received a grant for part of that work. And Jill and Janice have been having discussions on how that's going to be undertaken. And I believe I sent a copy to you, Mayor Allen. And I believe those discussions are still ongoing. And so I think what at this time, we just want to keep council aware that there's about these ongoing discussions.
Okay, thank you very much. It's still a fluid situation, and Jill, thank you for bringing that to council's attention. Jill, anything you want to add to that, or has Martin covered it pretty well?
Yeah, I don't have anything further to add beyond
Okay.
Councillor Vink.
Okay, thank you very much, Martin, for advising us of that. Council, we have 5A to 5G in the consent agenda. May I have a motion to receive it as presented? Councillor McGill, seconded by Councillor Vink. Call for discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Jill, I don't have any committee of adjustment this evening, but we will go into the number 7, public meeting, the Court of Revision regarding the Cavallar drain. We will appoint members of this and councillors. If for some reason you feel uncomfortable with being appointed to this, there's others that no doubt will take your job. I'd like to have Councillor McGill, Councillor Cowell, Councillor Vink, Deputy Mayor Wilkins, and I will chair that with council's endorsement. May I have a motion to recommend that the Court of Revision be comprised of those? Deputy Mayor Wilkins, move that, and a seconder for that, please. Councillor McGill. All in favor? Carried. We'll call the meeting together of the Court of Revision at 7:24. Jill? Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof of any committee members, with the exception of Councillor Choi has already mentioned that, but she's not on this committee. Seeing none, we will move on to the business end of it. Delegations and presentations on the the Cavallar drain. The purpose of this court of revision is clearly defined by statutory powers and procedures. Our purpose here is to discuss any requests regarding the allocation of funds in the drainage schedule of this drain. I remind the court that council has provisionally adopted first and second reading. Jill, have there been any appeals received?
There have not been any appeals.
Okay, thank you very much for that. The engineer is Spreet and Associates, so the representative here is Brandon here. I don't see him on my screen, Jill, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is Brandon with us? Oh, I see him down there on the bottom of my screen now. Yep, Brandon, unmute yourself there, and I think we're ready to go. Yes, how are you, Brandon?
Oh, we're doing good. So tonight
Good.
we have the Cavallar. This is a previous drain we did. It's on Falcon Bridge. Again, the total cost of the project is in the neighborhood of under 183,000. And I've received no feedback from the owners since the last meeting. I know James Glover, I believe, reached out to maybe Andrew and let's say clarified some questions, but he has not reached out to me. Nor have I heard from any of the other owners.
Okay. That's good news. So the math must be reasonably correct. Council, with the engineer giving us an introduction to that, are there any questions from members of council? And we can ask them to Brandon through the chair. We see, I don't see any hands or any interest in that. We must deliberate on the information that is at hand and come to a decision on that. Council, I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the assessment as presented by the engineer. Thank you very much, Councillor Cowell. We'll look for a seconder on that. Councillor McGill. Certainly any questions to Brandon on this? You certainly council have the committee rather have the opportunity. Yes, Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. To Brandon, I know it's Southwest Middlesex, their special assessments are fairly high. Is it extra work that had to be done here?
Yeah, Brandon, go ahead.
Well, I guess, Martin, there is 2 road crossings on this drain, and then there is a catch basin being installed on another branch. I guess if you could clarify which one you're pointing at. There's branch 5, there's branch 4, and there's a main in the assessments. Municipality is assessed in the neighborhood of $44,000. 24 of that is made up of special assessments, which is assessed at actual cost. That's the cost of the crossings. And then 20,000 would be benefits and outlets. But if you could tell me which one you're pointing at, I could clarify it further.
Okay.
No, I just wanted a general nature of what the costs were involved, and you've answered that, Brandon.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Vink, I saw you nod your head there. Brandon, I think the councillor is satisfied with your response.
No, and I will say, the costs are going up. I'm sure you all know. Pipe has increased drastically, plastic pipe especially. So you are going to see increased costs, going forward. It's a bit of a challenge right now on the estimating side and securing products.
I bet. So there's the inflationary aspects of it, Brandon, we're very familiar with. Thank you. Council, there has been a motion and it has been seconded. Last call for questions. All in favor of the assessment schedule, please raise your hand. It's carried. Thank you, Brandon. We will adjourn the committee at 7:30. And council, we are back to our regular agenda. At this point, we're entering staff reports on the agenda. I'm pleased to have Chief Sewell with us this evening. Chief, if you would give council an introduction to the master fire plan tenders, and it's with pleasure I give you the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'll be very quick with this for you. We did receive 2 tenders with the help of Mike Ross and Gary Johnson, the deputy chiefs, as well as the CAO. We were able to review the bids, and basically we had a big comparison that was actually included in the bid package. So any of the bids we received, they were very familiar about what they were going to be graded on and how they were going to be graded up front. We had 2 qualified bid packages that were given to us. And at this point, one of the highlights I'd just like to put out there is anytime you're looking for obviously a master fire plan or any type of plan, you're looking at obviously dollars, but you're looking at time that's going to be committed by a professional individuals that are going to work with myself as well as council, the CAO, and other stakeholders to get our best product out on the other end. So one of the highlights is the winning bid, although I would say moderately a bit higher on the RFP. It was it dedicated approximately 35% more time to our items that we requested to be reviewed and to take a look at Southwest Middlesex as a whole. So that was a key point in the RFP, as well as the dollar figures. When we did like for like, they were within a few dollars of each other's per hour. So when we put everything all together with the help of Jill, as well as my deputy chiefs, we came out with the recommendation to council to award the contract to emergency management group and move forward, and with an anticipated finish date of June 30th. So we had a finish date for then, so we're not encompassing on people's vacation or holidays or summer. And also it would give council time to digest well before any type of elections moving forward in the fall. So they were able to meet those timelines, and we'll come back to council with a full review of the master fire plan, and we'll be able to answer all questions that come up over the next 3 to 6 months. Another item that we were looking at, and why it was very it was excellent timing for us to go out with this, is the census was just released, and we wanted to have the most current numbers as possible to move ahead with this type of endeavor. And the census numbers were released today. I was anticipating them sometime in late February, early March, but they're released today. So that'll bode well to have a most current census that we can do a master fire plan with. So that's my recommendation to council. It was to accept the emergency management group's proposal, and with an end date of June 30th, 2022.
Thank you, Chief Sewell. Council, I'm sure you'll have some questions. If I could just deviate from my normal protocol, Chief Sewell, if I'd be allowed to ask the first question. There's 2 parts of this, I undertake it. There will be a risk assessment and then a master fire plan as well. And the risk assessment end of it is compulsory. We must do that, I understand. And we'll just piggyback the 2 on the same as the most efficient way to do it.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. When we did put this proposal out in consultation with the COO, as well as my deputy chiefs, we wanted to make sure that we were able to combine the 2 to be more fiscally responsible. If we're having a group to do one or the other, it would definitely be more expensive. But by combining the two, it's definitely more economical and more cost effective to the municipality moving forward. I also see that master fire plan, that although they do say 5 years as a lifespan, sometimes they do creep out a little bit farther. So we want to make sure that we get the best performance we do and the most updated numbers to make sure that we're accurate to move forward with this in a growing community such as the municipality of Southwest Middlesex.
Thank you again. Council, please ask any questions you wish regarding this through the chair to Chief Sewell. Yes, Councillor McGill first.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. To me, one of the biggest issues with fire protection is the coming closure of the Melbourne Hall by Caradoc or Strathroy Caradoc. How much time will be spent in this master fire plan dealing with deciding what we're going to have to do to deal with that situation?
Yep. Thank you, Councillor McGill. We know that is a subject that will have to come forth in the future, and of course, we haven't received information from Strathroy Caradoc yet. But Chief Sewell, would you like to address Councillor McGill's worry on that?
Mr. Mayor, to Councillor McGill, yes, that it was mentioned that we will be dealing with stakeholders internally as well as externally. So we'll be having a conversation with the fire chief, not only in Strathroy Caradoc, as well as our neighboring fire chief to the west, which would be Newbury, just to make sure that our bylaws and our current agreements are in order and moving forward, as well as anyone else in the neighboring area that has a stake in how we're going to move forward with our master fire plan. So we will be dedicating some time to that. I don't know the exact time, but we will be dedicating time to that and having a conversation with our CAO, councillors, mayor, deputy mayors, as well as our staff. They'll be meeting as a group with our stations to see what the needs and wants of our firefighters are, as well as it could go as far as putting out a survey to our stakeholders or our taxpayers to see what they would like to see moving forward. So it's going to hit a lot of items, and it's going to be an exciting time to try to nail down our current numbers as well as where we're going to be in 5 years. So that will definitely be one of the top items that we'll be putting on the table when we meet the CAO and myself with the initial meetings of laying out our priorities.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor Cowell, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to Chief Sewell. I had a question. If you had talked about external parties, and I'm sure it'll be included, but I am interested in hearing what they might have to say about our different fire services agreement, taking into consideration Melbourne and the situation in Alvingston, and if it is the best solution for us, whether the continuing fire agreement is what works, or if there's a better opportunity out there. It just sounds like we've got some big bills to pay coming up in the future, and I'm hopeful that a master plan will help us effectively spend our money. I know that with our rec master plan, we've been able to get some real direction for our municipality, and I think that this will be one of the first times we'll see something similar for your fire department as well. And with so much change coming in the near future, this couldn't be more timely.
Thank you. Council, any other questions? Yeah.
Just wanted to address quick to Councillor Cal through the chair, if I could.
By all means.
You're exactly right. We're looking forward to working with the strategic plan, the rec master plan, and these are all going to dovetail together to see where we're moving forward. And we will be reaching out to our neighboring partners and make sure that these agreements are in the best interest of not only ourselves, but make sure that it's fair for the taxpayers as well. So everything will be on the table, and will be like an open book for this individuals to come in, and I look forward. They're very competent, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the outcome of the master fire plan will be.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Councillor Cal. Any other questions? If I could close it off, Chief, with one more. Due to Middlemas's proximity to First Nations fire forces, will they enter into the discussions at all, or will that come up? They're on our far south end, and will First Nations departments come into the discussion?
Mr. Mayor, yes, they will be invited to the table. We've had some conversation regarding some other items with the First Nations in our Middlesex County Chiefs group. So we will be reaching out to all the pertinent chiefs, invite them to sit down and have a session with us. So yes, they will be included, as well as all our other partners.
Okay, thank you. Council, you've heard the report. The chair will entertain a motion. The recommendation is before you. Councillor Cowell, are you moving that? And seconded by Councillor Bartlett. And last call for questions to the chief. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the recommendation? Motion is carried. Chief Sewell, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jill, we're moving on to 8B. I don't see Stephanie on our screen. Would you be kind enough to introduce this removal of the holding zones reports on 8B1 and 8B2? And if I could hand the floor over to you to apprise council of this, I'd appreciate it, Jill.
Absolutely. So council will recall at the end of last year that there were two separate agreements that came before council, and council approved them. One was for a site plan, and that's the development that we're talking about at 282 Main Street for development of some townhomes. And as soon as that agreement was registered on title, those individuals could request the removal of the holding symbol. So they have done so, and Stephanie has been keen to keep this moving along. And as you and I had discussed earlier, Mayor Mayhew, once that plan was registered, the developers are in a position to actually begin work for actually putting the infrastructure in the ground. The removal of the holding symbol helps to move things along for when they're ready for getting building permits. So this is helping move development along. And I think you were out and about today and saw some actual equipment on the ground.
I did. Yeah, it was nice to see some earth being moved. And I thank staff for addressing this, and we can see the efficiencies developing. Greg, anything to add to that? I don't want to leave you out of the picture because I know you've had a lot to do with this too, and we want to pass on our regards to you there.
No, through you, Mayor Allen, they are starting to move some dirt over there, so it is a good sign, and I think you'll see that happen pretty quickly.
Okay, Jill, must we do these separately, or can we do these collectively? I guess perhaps. I think we're
Separately,
going to
would probably be cleanest.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So, council, the recommendation is there. Council, I'll open the floor to questions to Jill or Greg. But it's a good news. I'll call the question then. All in favor of the recommendation to remove the holding zone on the development, please raise your hand.
We just need a mover and a seconder.
Mover and a seconder. I'm sorry. Yeah, we do. Yeah, moved by Deputy Mayor Wilkins, seconded by Councillor Bartlett. Apologize for that, council. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Then Chemtopia Developments are ready to rock. Jill, the second one, the holding zone on Wayne Turner's development, if you could introduce that to council.
Sure. So this was the plan of subdivision and the development agreement that was presented, and now lifting of the holding provisions on that area. So they've also registered that agreement on title and submitted their request and are ready to go.
Okay, council, any questions to staff on this? I see no hands. Will someone advance the recommendation by their hand? Thank you. Councillor McGill, Councillor Choi. It's been moved and seconded. Questions? Last call. All in favor of the lifting of the holding zone, please raise your hand. Motion is carried. We're at number 3 of administration's report regarding the application of mosquito larvicide permits. Jill, can you briefly introduce this to council?
Yeah, so Southwest Middlesex receives this request on an annual basis to go ahead and treat certain areas for West Nile with mosquitoes that are carrying West Nile virus. So it's an annual request that comes through. Council generally approves that and permits the application for that by the health.
Mayor Mayhew, I'll move it.
Thank you very much. Seconder for that. Councillor Scholdice. Thank you. I'll call the question. Just remind council that last year we did have infected mosquitoes found in mosquito traps with the infection. So it's important we continue on. Councillor Cal, do you have a question?
I just wanted to inquire through the chair to Jill if this is one of those items. When I was reading the delegation of powers, I think it mentioned the mosquito larvicide as an item. So is this one of those items that we would no longer be dealing with and could be therefore delegated to our staff? Because I know slowly but surely we've been whittling some of those off, and it's interesting to see an example of one in the same meeting.
Yeah. It is. Jill, I'll let you respond to that. I think that provisional power aspect of it is only in the event of an emergency, but you can add to that if you'd like to address the councillor.
Sure, through you, Mayor Mayhew. Yes, Councillor Cavallar, you're correct that this would be, this is considered one of the items that council could decide to delegate to staff. And given that it's typically been supported by council, it seems like a routine matter that could be approved by staff if council so chooses. So we did not time the delegation policy and this on the same meeting. They just happened to be, they happened on the same agenda.
Okay. Councillor McGill, I see your hand raised. Do you have a question, Mark?
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Through the chair, I'd like to ask Jill, was there work done in Southwest Middlesex last year spraying for mosquitoes, and who did the work? I know over in Lambton County, the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority does that for a lot of municipalities.
So through you, Mayor Mayhew, I don't have the name, but I can get that for you. My understanding is there was work here.
Okay. Yep, we've seen them do our catch basins and things like that and go through the municipality. Okay, Mark, we'll try to get you that information. All right. I'll make a note that she'll find the person who's doing the application. Council recommendation is before you. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Vinks, seconded by Councillor McGill. Last call for questions. And if you're in favor of the recommendation, please raise your hand. Motion is carried.
is it all, if I just confirm, I
go
think
ahead.
that was moved by Deputy Mayor Wilkins and then Councillor Scholdice
Oh,
initially,
yes, you were. Yeah, thank you, Jill, for bringing that to our attention. Yep. Okay.
but
Yeah.
it's carried, I understand.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
is, no problem. Yep. Okay, moving on. Number 4 on your agenda is the LTVCA's membership appointment to the board. It's the recommendation is that Councillor Cal continue on representing Southwest Middlesex on that. And Jill, there's a lengthy paper associated with that on our agenda from the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority or on that. And we appreciate Councillor Cal's efforts in the past. Would you like to speak to that, Jill? And Councillor Cal, you're certainly welcome to speak to it as well.
Sure, we received the request directly from the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. So it seems there's a little bit of discrepancy in terms of the terms that some of they have. But when we submit the form that we receive for a council appointment, it says till the 2022 annual general meeting. But I guess their annual general meeting has happened. Is that how that's worked?
All right.
And so what they're really looking for is coverage until the end of the council term, which we assume council has already supported through its bylaw, but they would like a specific clarification about this so it matches with their documents.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if we can give it to them. Councillor Cal, anything to add? Go ahead, Krista.
I spoke with our executive director today, Mr. Mark Peacock, and he said that some municipalities have already changed whatever piece of paperwork they need to maintain it be the same as a council's term, and some municipalities have not. And so I know that West Elgin, for example, is going through the same paperwork with Mr. Richard Latham over there tonight, actually. So anyways, with that in mind, I will be following up with an email to Valerie just to make sure that going forward we're on the same page, so that kind of like the delegation of duties, we aren't having to come back every third year. So that's what it is. They said that it's likely in line with the pre-amalgamation of the delegations for the Lower Thames Conservation Authority being at the 3-year mark, and that we might just need to make an adjustment.
Okay, thank you for that. Council, last call for questions on this topic. The recommendation is before you that Councillor Cal finish out this council term on that committee. All in favor? Motion to accept it from Bartlett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilkins. If there's no other questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, noted. Okay, motion is carried. Still, we're at 8C, and I do not believe there is any building report this evening. I have nothing on my itinerary in front of me. And Kristen, regarding climate, yes.
I just have that tiny report on delegation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Jill.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. So
Yes.
As noted in the report, every municipality is required to have a policy related to delegation of powers and duties under Section 270 of the Municipal Act, and Council has dealt with a number of the policies that are required under that section. This is sort of the last one of those before they start going through a cycle of review and revision. Delegation of powers and duties is really an opportunity, as you kind of have already alluded to, Mayor and Councillor Cowell, perhaps more efficiencies and just having things done a little bit quicker, but it's also capturing where there is the responsibility. So there is if you're going to have the responsibility to deal with particular issues, then there is also an accountability side of that as well. So many of the things that are proposed in this policy or considered in this policy are actually exactly how we already operate. This is just a document that helps to confirm and demonstrate for council and staff where the responsibility lies. So the Act also says that there are certain things council cannot delegate. They have to be the only body that is making decisions about imposing taxes, appointing statutory officers, definitely certain planning matters have to be with council. So there's a number of those items which cannot be delegated, but in otherwise, except for those particular areas, there's a lot of flexibility depending on the council. So the one other part that I wanted to mention, Section 275. So I've tried to capture this in the draft policy because Section 275 speaks to restrictions after nomination day for council, and that's commonly known as the lame duck period. And what most of the time has happened in the past, as I understand it, is every election year, the clerk would come forward with a specific bylaw to allow for these particular exemptions, and all this does is create that opportunity so that it's clear that this is approved, because otherwise you're restricted as council if you find yourself in a lame duck situation by undertaking certain acts unless it's specifically delegated. So council in the past has delegated this authority, so it's traditionally something that has moved over to staff anyways. This just makes it a little quicker, and that it's captured in this policy instead of a report coming every 4 years on the matter. So as noted, there's a particular list of general things, and then certain areas where we are a little more specific and have included some reporting requirements if there are issues or matters of concern, and the report back mechanism for that. So I'm very happy to take any questions, but I also wanted to thank the senior management team for the time and energy and effort that they've helped to put into this, because we've been reviewing and looking at this for quite a long time, and I appreciate the opportunity to present it to you this evening.
Thank you, Jill. Council has an opportunity to ask questions on the powers and duties policy. Please raise your hand and through the chair. Okay, there is none. Jill, if I could ask a question. Jill, of course, we realize the importance that business must continue on and we work as efficiently as possible. But is there any language in there, Jill, that identifies your responsibility and administration's responsibility to follow the procurement policy legislation that we have enacted, and also that any disbursement of funds would have to be within the guidelines of the budget that's been passed by council? Is there language in that at all, or is it just part of the expectations?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mayor Mayhew. This is not a standalone policy by any means. So the entire umbrella of Section 270 policies is really the first and foremost is accountability and transparency. So to your point, there is definitely requirements for making sure that we are accountable for the actions and decisions that we make, as well as council lays them out. So we have to only follow what council's directions are, and that includes the wording in, perhaps if this were to be accepted, this particular policy as well, we would have to follow the procurement policy and any other policy or direction that council sets by bylaw as staff. So yeah, very good question.
Okay, thank you. Council, last call. Yes, Councillor Scholz, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. As the mayor commented at the last meeting, ratepayers elect us to make these decisions. We cannot make knowledgeable decisions without the information. There are some duties listed that should not be delegated. For examples, renewal of insurance policies, granting minor variances, settling small claims court issues under $50,000. This clearly would reduce the powers of an elected council and empower unelected bureaucrats. So I will not be supporting this motion.
Okay. Council, thank you, Councillor Schuldeis. Council, any questions or any response to Councillor Schuldeis or any share of sympathies? Yes, 2 questions. I will take them in the order I saw your hands. Councillor Cowell first, followed by Councillor Vink.
Through the chair to Councillor Schuldeis, one thing that we've seen in other committees that I'm involved in, specifically Lower Thames Conservation Authority, is that when a minor variance comes to us and it's going to be recommended by the planner or any type of policy or things like that that the staff recommend, 99% of the time we would have allowed them. So it's allowing someone to go forward with work they want to do. And I can't think of a time where we've had a minor variance come forward that was minor in nature that we on council haven't supported. It's similar to how when there's been a water leak and we forgive what's the thing where they go into the ground? It's not septic, it's sewage. Thank you. It's similar to how we forgive the sewer fee. Anywho, so we give those powers to our staff already to be able to make it go faster for the ratepayer. It's not so much that we're taking powers away and that we're not getting powers, but it's looking at those variances. And instead of having to wait for a planning meeting that could happen a month from now, it provides the opportunity for the ratepayer to get it sooner.
Thank you. And Jill, I see your hand, but I'm going to allow Councillor Vink to speak first and then you're next. Okay.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. You mentioned something about sympathy, so I am expressing my sympathy to what Councillor Schuldeis stated. In other words, I agree 100% with what he said.
Okay. Thank you. Jill, go ahead. If you can add to the conversation or dispel any concerns.
Sure, yeah. With respect to the minor variance, I just wanted to clarify that's with the Committee of Adjustment. So it is not to staff. It's already the makeup in Southwest Middlesex is that essentially council is Committee of Adjustment. So this is a delegation of power and duty. Just clarifying that role goes to the Committee of Adjustment. And there's a requirement on the Planning Act to spell that out as well.
Okay, that's fine. Yep. Yes, any other questions, Council? I know there's some sensitivity here, but we'll certainly try to accommodate all councillors here. Councillor Vink, your second question for this topic.
Yes, sorry about that, Mayor Allen. To Jill, what Councillor Schuldeis mentioned about small claims, is that accurate that it can go to staff up to 50 grand and without council knowing about
it? Jill, I'll let you respond to that. And Kristen, I'm going to ask, the chair is going to ask you to come in on this too regarding the insurance and the small claims court. I'd be interested in the treasurer's opinion on this and the necessity of this, but I'm going to allow Jill to go first. Go ahead, Jill. Thank you very much for your patience.
Yeah, it's essentially the ability to try to negotiate up to a certain amount and then bring that to council. So really what's being proposed in the one case is for prosecutions is related to settle matters in an aggregate penalty not more than $5,000. And where there is a claim that it's not beyond $50,000, the treasurer would still be providing information and updates with respect to this, but that is what's proposed.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Kristen, I would appreciate you weighing in on this with your opinions, and particularly the necessity of this of moving this forward in regards to insurance and other aspects of it too. Would you have any thoughts on it?
Sure, absolutely. Like Jill said, it would be much more cumbersome and time consuming if each step along the way within a claim, we needed to come back to council and see what they directed our next move to be. So generally, it's more advantageous to see what we can do on our end. And frankly, most of those are led by the insurer and or through lawyers as well. So we are definitely relying on the expert opinions that we can gather to drive the process and then bring hopefully a final result to council for their approval.
Okay.
Jill, you could correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's.
No, I agree with the treasurer.
Okay, thanks very much. I didn't want to leave you out of this conversation, Ms. McGill. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further questions, council? Yes, Councillor Scholdice, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'd like to request a recorded vote on this.
Okay, fine. Okay. Jill, we need a mover and a seconder on this. It hasn't, during the conversation, I don't believe it has been taken. Would someone
Sorry.
like to address the recommendation by supporting it? Please raise your hand if you move it. Is there a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Bartlett, is there a seconder for the recommendation? Chair will call again. Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Deputy Mayor Wilkins? Okay, it has been moved and seconded. I'll ask one more call for questions, and Jill can prepare herself to call the vote as Councillor Scholdice has indicated. No hands up, no more questions. Okay, Jill, I'll pass it over to you for the recorded vote.
Councillor Scholdice?
No.
Mayor Mayhew?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I skipped over Deputy Mayor Wilkins.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Councillor McGill
Yes.
and Councillor Choi
Yes.
and Councillor Cowell
Yes.
and Councillor Vink
No,
and Councillor Bartlett.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay. We are on 8C. Jill, I have nothing on my agenda for building. 8D is finance. There's nothing at this time. And 8E is operations, the Dymek drain, section 78. Andrew, if you could introduce this to council, the chair would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a continuation of the previous meeting that was held in November 10th. I will just briefly go over the background. The municipality had received a request under 78 in September of this past year. However, the request was not clear as to what the requester was asking for. Attempts were made to clarify what this was, and in November 10th, staff was directed to hold a scoping meeting, and this meeting was held on December 15th. And in this year, January 25th, the requester resubmitted a request for the reconstruction of the Dymek drain. As a result of the previous scoping session, and that the requester has now defined the scope of what he's asking, it is reasonable to proceed with the appointment of the engineer. And so that brings me to the recommendation. I recommend that council accepts the request regarding improvements under 78 of the Drainage Act on the Dymock drain. And I also recommend that the council appoints Spreet and Associates under 78 of the Drainage Act for the reconstruction.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions from council on the request for the section 78? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion if someone would like to raise their hand in moving that. Councillor McGill, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Cowell. Last call for questions. All in favor of the engineer's recommendation? Or the drainage superintendent's? Not an engineer yet, Andrew, so some days you have to almost be one. Thank you. Motion is carried. Section 78 has been acknowledged and passed. And if you'd like to, Andrew, the second report is regarding the Village of Warsville. Could you introduce council to that, please?
Yes, sir. This is a fairly brief report here. As council is aware, there is an ongoing project for a municipal drain construction in the Village of Wardsville. And I had indicated throughout different meetings that there would be the opportunity for other property owners and stakeholders to submit their own petition to expand this project. And that is what has happened here, is that a company 1010911 Ontario Limited has submitted a petition under Section 4 of the Drainage Act to include this on the ongoing project that Spreet and Associates is currently working on.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. I don't want to cut you off there. You're finished, I presume?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, council, any questions you'd like to direct through the chair to Andrew? Yes, Councilor McGill first.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew, to Andrew. I just wanted to say, just a comment, I like that map better than the previous map because it shows all the roads on all four sides. So it makes it easier for me to get in my head where that is. And the previous report, it's on Longwoods Road, but I'm not sure where on Longwoods Road. So I don't know whether if when you're putting these maps up, you could just pull back a little so we see a little bit more of the surrounding area maybe. I would appreciate that.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I make an effort to try to include the appropriate information. However, as you zoom out to include more area of any area, then details are lost. However, I think what I could do to deal with that is maybe include 2 or maybe even 3 maps in order to capture more detail.
Okay. Council, thank you, Councilor McGill. Any other questions to Andrew? Yes, Martin, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. To Andrew, would this affect any people just above this development? Because I know there are properties that probably are in the same watershed.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it could. I think that it would be reasonable to suggest that there could be a larger scope given this. However, because they have been notified of this and they will be notified going forward, they will certainly be well aware of how things are unfolding right now.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Vink. I see you're nodding your head in approval there. Deputy Mayor Wilkins' hand next. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'll move it.
Okay, seconder for that. Councilor Choi, we'll take you. Any other questions to Andrew, Council? Seeing none, all in favor of the drainage request? Motion is carried. Andrew, thank you very much for bringing those reports to council. Number 9 on the agenda is a notice of motion to Councillor Cowell. Councillor Cowell, I'll give you the floor and you can introduce your concern to council. Go ahead, Krista.
Thank you so much. During this year's budget period, we received notification of over $200,000 that we're getting back as a result of our recycling program. And I know we've heard, for those of us that attend AMO and Roma, we've heard a lot of different information about the Blue Bin program and how it's changed and evolved throughout the province of Ontario over the last few years with the producer pay program. So I would love to hear a report back from staff a little bit about where did some of this money come from? Is it because we've adjusted the type of program we have from a Blue Bin program to the Rolly Bins? Is it as a result of the producer pay program? And I think I'd like to know some of that information, but I think it would benefit council to hear about how this program has changed. So that is why I have asked this motion to come forward, to have a report back so we can all be on the same page. And maybe we can find out whether or not this money that we received this year is going to become sort of a permanent amount that we can count on, which would be great.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cowell. Council, we're going to open the floor for discussion. Is there any questions on this or any concerns? Okay, this is the topic is extended producer responsibility, and the province have been quite aggressive in this regard, and I'm sure council have read some of the provincial statements on it. There are big changes coming forth. Yes, I'll take questions. Councillor McGill, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I can support this. I know these changes that are coming are something that have been in the planning stages for quite a while, but there's been very little in the press about it. Most people are completely unaware that this is coming. And I think, isn't it starting to be phased in 2023, I believe?
There are steps under the system. The goal for paper, it culminates within the next couple of years, and they have projected targets right to 2030. So there are steps in it. I have a few documents in front of me. They're quite in depth, and it's hard to interpret them with the responsibilities as chair right now. But it is a phased approach from what it extends, and the request is certainly interesting. The only thing I might add to that, Councillor Cowell, and I support your notice of motion as well. The only concern the chair has in that is that this is really an actuarial analysis, an in-depth analysis on the new provincial policy. And I know that staff are really up to their neck in work right now, and particularly our treasurer, Krista McGill. She does not have her deputy treasurer with her. So I'm sure staff would be very pleased to bring forth a report to council. But I think we have to have a window that's open for just a reasonable period of time. I've chatted with the staff, and they would feel comfortable bringing this back to council in July or even early August is the only concern that I've had. They are quite busy. And Councillor Cowell, I've seen your hand. Go ahead.
I'll just let Greg go shortly. I've had a chance to speak with staff as well, and I have put no timeline on this.
Okay, great. And Greg, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just through you, Mayor, to council, there are two components to this. One is the financial end of the particular program. And we have been working with the province with regards to a lot of information. that we've had to give them with regards to recycling and the program that's currently in place. And as well, Waste Management is helping us through this particular time. There are some decisions that have been made with regards to the producer program, but it is very fluid even at this particular point. So, that time frame certainly works for me, particularly because a lot more of this information is going to unfold here in the next couple months. So, and certainly do understand that, the Kristen's department is strapped a little bit at this particular point as well, but it will take a fair bit of work between Kristen and myself to throw this report together.
Thanks, Greg, for that. And thank you, Councillor Cowell, for giving the opportunity for staff to have some time on this. Is there a mover and a seconder for this? Moved by Councillor Cowell, seconder for this. Councillor Bartlett, I saw your hand first. And staff, we understand there's a wide window in this for you. The last call for questions. All in favor of the notice of motion? Carried. Correspondence and petitions. Jill, I have not received any notice of any. Is that correct? And unfinished business on number 11. I have not been advised of any. In new business, there were no items removed from the consent agenda and no addendum items or other business. And we have county council and conference updates. They'll be coming forth. I try to do those quarterly. And I'll give you Middlesex County's report probably within the next 30 days. Council, we are at, I'm watching hands here, we're at number 14 of announcements. Are there any, council, that you wish to bring forward? Seeing none, just remind people and ticket holders that there is a dinner on Valentine's Day hosted by the Glencoe Agricultural Society. And another announcement I'd like to make, if you're interested in auctions, the Middlesex County Archives auction, they use this to raise funds. It has been an auction hosted by Filson's Auction at www.filsonauctions.com. There is still time to put bids in books, antiques, stained glass, handwork, tools, toys, and vintage games. So within the next 36 hours, you have time to visit that or go to the Middlesex County Archive site and you'll get direction there. That auction has started on February 5th and will go till February 10th tomorrow. Any other announcements? Seeing none, we will jump to bylaws as was approved in the agenda, consent for the agenda. And we will ask that a motion to accept the recommendations pertaining to the bylaws as described from 16A to 6C be moved. Is there a councillor that'll entertain that? Councillor Scholdice? Is there a seconder? Councillor Vink? Any questions? All in favor of the adoption of the bylaws? Thank you. We will backtrack to 15, the closed session. It's recommended that council go into closed session at 8:24 as per section 239 of the Municipal Act to consider the following: the January 12th closed session minutes and a proposed or a pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or the local board. Will someone move that, please? Councillor Cowell, seconded by Councillor McGill. Questions to the chair? All in favor? Carried. Deputy Mayor, will you take the gavel?